Father who has experienced trauma, abuse, and neglect in their life.
Teaching men to feel their feelings.
Maybe it was Jesus, maybe it was the universe, whoever it was, whatever it was something that was tangible.
What are some simple breath practices?
And then you have capacity for whatever emotions they're having.
Sometimes you get a lot of messages from women who are reaching out on behalf of their husbands.
For me, breath is what really helped. Breath is what worked.
Welcome back to Session and Secrets with Luisa. And today I'm really excited here with my guest,
Alex Flores.
And tell me about yourself, Alex.
I am a trauma-informed fatherhood coach. I'm an infant early child mental health specialist, breathwork facilitator, and reflective practice facilitator. But before that, I'm a father. So I support fathers on their healing journey. I support early child educators in connecting with children and families by offering reflective coaching. And I also guide people through breathwork experiences and journeys. And I do all that through a trauma-informed lens. And I essentially support parents and fathers in and on their healing journey any way I can, through reflective coaching, through breathwork, or sometimes somatic movements and different modalities that I coach on when I work with parents and fathers directly.
What are some of the stories that you've heard, or that guys, fathers reach out to you asking?
That's a lot. There's a lot of stories. I think my content that I create is really speaking to a specific type of father, a father who has experienced trauma, abuse, and neglect in their life. And they think they're doing okay, and maybe they did okay, and then they have a kid, and then their kid starts doing certain behaviors, and then those behaviors start eliciting big feelings in that dad, and that dad starts snapping at their kid, and they're like, what the fuck, man? Like, I don't want to be this jerk that my dad was to me, to my child, so how do I change? And then that's where I come in. It's like, how do we support these men that are feeling these big emotions, that are in their emotions, and they might not have the tools to express them? So I work with a lot of men that come to me a lot through transitions, through going through separations, divorce, big transitions, through career changes. And I support them in finding grounding through those big, difficult changes, all while looking at it through a trauma-informed lens. Like, there are reasons why we're reacting a certain way, and it's typically because it stems from childhood. And I coach men through that process of understanding and finding tools to navigate their own process of awareness, gaining the awareness to step into kind of doing things differently. So I work with guys that come to me sometimes very dysregulated, and by the end of the 12 weeks I work with them, or if I offer coaching or breath work, they develop tools to pause and take a deep breath and really choose how they show up in a way where they choose to respond rather than react. And I know it sounds easy, like taking a deep breath and just choosing. And it can be that easy, but it takes practice. So that's the work I do with men. And there's plenty of stories where I've had men that were just like, man, this doesn't work. Why would I go stand on grass early in the morning to take breaths? It's just stupid. I'm like, just try it. Just try it. What's the other option? Waking up feeling anxiety in your chest, feeling like you have all this dread and gloom, or you can just go outside, step on your grass, take some breaths, be barefoot, and then take the moment to come into the present moment. And I think that's the work I do with fathers that are really struggling. And through the process of understanding your breath, somatic awareness, emotional regulation, and learning some grounding tools and reflective strategies, they can really kind of bring themselves back into their body and process the stuff they're going through. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's a lot of stuff. So I don't know how much exactly I want to share about the fathers I work with. But yeah, a lot of stuff from dads that are, wanting to change because they're finding themselves being reactive. Dads that are wanting to build and connect more with their children because they're feeling themselves being disconnected. Dads that are realizing, oh, damn, I messed up and my whole life is blowing up in front of me, and now my wife wants a divorce. Mm-hmm. Why? What happened? And then it's like, well, let me help you look at those blind sides, those blind spots that you have. So it's a lot of deep work that requires the father or the parent I'm working with to really show up invested in their well-being. Not just showing up just to show up. It really is not work up here, it's work in here.
Right. And what led you to combine both of them, like the breath work and the fatherhood coaching?
So for my story, I spent 36 years of my life being a certain way. And I say disconnected from my breath. I was reactive. I would feel a lot of tension and stress. Sometimes I'd feel disconnected or anxious. After 36 years of my life, I had a mental breakdown. I had many mental breakdowns up until that point, but this was the one. Mm-hmm. And I went to an IOP. Actually, before the IOP, I was, trying to work on my marriage at the time. I was trying to
Right.
save my marriage. I was investing all this, self-development on myself to fix myself for my marriage. And I just was spinning my wheels so hard. I did EMDR. I did
Okay.
it so intensely that it really cracked everything open. I was super dysregulated, led into a mental health crisis where I was like, I need to do something. I'm 36 years old. I'm, at work, I'm struggling. At home, I'm struggling. I feel just such dysregulation in my body. I'm not sure what's going on. And at this point in my career, I'm working in mental health. I'm supporting parents and teachers and supporting kids through their emotions. I'm taking trainings, all these trauma-informed trainings, but at the same time, my inner world is just falling apart.
Right.
So I went to an IOP, an intensive outpatient program. At that point, I had a lot of suicidal ideation. It wasn't something that was new to me. It just came on super strong. I think the first time I felt suicidal ideation, I was like 9 years old. And throughout my life, it was just always been lingering there. So at 36, it was just so strong I couldn't ignore it. I went to the IOP. The first week at that IOP, I discovered breathwork. It was instructor came in. We all laid on a yoga mat. We all, in this room, we huffed and puffed. We just, which at that time I was like, this is weird, but I'm going to trust it because nothing else is working. I'm feeling miserable. I don't feel like living. So this has to work. And I just trusted the process and I breathed and I just followed that breath. And the instructor just told us to go through, keep going. And all of a sudden I started to feel like panicking and anxiety, and my body started to shake and I started to cry. And I didn't really know why I was crying. I was just like, what the heck is going on? I was like, oh, this is like an anxiety attack. I've had these before. I know what's going on. And I was like, oh, and I hear the instructor, stay with your breath. And I stay with my breath. And I start to realize I can breathe through it. I'm the one in the driver's seat. I'm the one feeling all these emotions with my breath. And as I breathe through it, all of that anxiety, all of the tension, all of the worry just washes away. And I feel whole. And that's the word that came to me, is you are whole. And in that moment, I've never felt it in my life. Maybe it was Jesus, maybe it was the universe, whoever it was, whatever it was something that was tangible. And in that moment, I felt whole. And I had this feeling like you have everything that you need already in you. And I was like, oh shit, this is getting real. Like this is working. And after that day, I decided to do breathwork every single day because I've never felt that. And I felt it every single day. And through my own journey, through my own mental health struggles, to get over these suicidal ideations, to work through a marriage and try to save it and not have it work out in the end, but learn so much about myself, I got through it because of my breath. I had to make difficult decisions that were very, very hard for my body to feel, but I had to get through them and had to breathe. And I learned that breathing is tied to our emotions, to our physical mood. It's tied to our nervous system. So the more I practiced breath work, the more I became more aware of my emotions, somatically aware of how they feel in my body. And then when I started working with men, I started incorporating that because that's a missing piece. We don't learn how to feel our feelings. No one tells us what we're feeling as men, as boys, as we grow up into adults, and we're just supposed to know. If nobody taught us, we don't know how. If you have parents that model it, if you have protective factors around you that show you how to have healthy relationships, then you might have a good chance of learning how. But if you don't, you're fucking screwed, man. You got to figure out shit on your own. And through your breath, you can create the capacity to figure it out. And the work I do is supporting men in connecting their breath to their emotional regulation and somatic awareness.
Yes, and I think I was telling you that I have a group of men, and that's part of the teaching. Some of them I ask them, like, where are you feeling those feelings? And they're like, no, nowhere.
Yeah.
I got nothing. I don't feel it. I don't feel anything. And so, yes, you're right. Part of it is like teaching men to feel their feelings.
Yeah. And I think it's something that came easy to me to feel my feelings. I spent, 15 years or so working in early childhood education, working with preschool teachers, children, parents, teaching kids and parents how to, and teachers how to support children in feeling their feelings, right? How do you teach a preschooler to express themselves? And I didn't realize I did not know how to do it inside here all those years because I was doing it in here intellectually. But until I had my like breakdown, I guess,
Right.
I was like, oh man, these feelings live in my body and this is very intense. And I think reflecting back in my life, those are the reasons why I found myself in this suicidal ideation, because the feelings in my body were so intense, they were so uncomfortable, I just couldn't sit with them. And when I sat with them, I would go into my head and then I would ruminate and I would tell myself all these stories and it would get worse, right? And I think a lot of men that don't have the support to understand what they're feeling in their body can get stuck in their head. And we get stuck in a logical mind and we shove our emotions down. And our emotions are just energy. They will eventually come up. And they will probably come up at the time when they're not supposed to come up, and they'll be expressed out to the people around you. And most likely they will be the people you love the most.
Exactly.
And after the fact that that's done, there's a lot more of energy and emotions that come in, like shame and guilt and all these things that we start to judge ourselves harshly because we didn't have the tools to express ourselves in a way that was aligned with who we are and how we want to be, but instead it was aligned with these traumas that we carry, this reactiveness that men might have because their dad was a certain way.
And what are some what are some old beliefs about masculinity that you think now are damaging maybe fatherhood or relationships?
I think I grew up hearing Los hombres no lloran. Boys don't cry. I was like, motherfucker, I was 4 years old, like I'm not a man, let me cry, I'm 4. So for me growing up, I really wasn't allowed to cry. And when I did cry, there were big tantrums because they were like, stored up. I was sucking it up until I couldn't anymore. So as a child, I heard, boys don't cry. And I'll hear that like even in some adults, like, hey, quit being a bitch, quit being a pussy, get out of your feelings. Your feelings, don't listen to your feelings. And I don't think how it works. Like in order to be embodied in your body, to understand how you can show up in a way where you're intentional as being a father, a partner, a man, you have to understand what's going on in your body. So to say boys don't cry or men don't cry, it's a disservice to being human. Like we are humans. In order to be human, we need to feel the full spectrum of our emotions. If we can feel our full spectrums of emotions, we can cry, we can laugh, we can feel joy, we can feel all the good stuff. But if we're ignoring some emotions, we're limiting ourselves and we're really constricting our ability to feel.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. And part of the healing, would you say, what's the secret of your healing journey?
Secret of my healing journey, it's been a long one. I've been seeing therapists for 15 years. Even in childhood, I saw many therapists. And I always thought I was broken. I've been diagnosed with all kinds of stuff. I've been all kinds of psych meds. I've always thought that I needed to be fixed and there's something wrong with me. And the moment I realized that I didn't need to be fixed and that I was whole and I was loved and I was fine as I am, and it's all just about processing what's going on in my body, I started to be able to move forward. I started to be able to let go of some of the hurt, some of the pain, some of the traumas that I've carried through my childhood, some of the things I've experienced, hearing things like, boys don't cry, men don't cry, like as a child I would hear, you're going to end up dead or in jail. As a full-grown adult, that was still in my mind. That was still holding me to this sense of like, oh, at least I'm not dead or in jail. I'm still a fuck up, all that stuff. So the secret to my healing journey was I kept showing up trying to fix myself. And at a certain point, I trusted the process and I decided to stop trying to fix myself and start learning to love myself. And when I sensed that self-love, it was just game changer. And I was able to get there through breath of that activating breath, just trusting that my body could do what it needed to do to make me feel safe. So it's really the secret of my healing journey is trusting the process and really trusting my breath to get me through whatever I need to get through. I feel that at the end of any emotion fully felt through to completion is bliss, is connectedness to source, to one, to whatever you want to call it. But it's to the sense of like, a sense of groundedness and safety, right? Some people might say they're connected to spirit or source or universe or God. And in that moment, that's where the healing happens, is where you can bring that peace back into your present day. And I think that's my healing journey has been finding ways to navigate my emotions and on the other side come out in a way where I'm love. I'm radiating this love and I'm not stuck in this resentment or anger because I've been screwed over by a lot of stuff. I've been through a lot of trauma, which I held on to. So it's been letting go, and my breath has been the secret. It's really a long journey, but I'm here.
Yeah. So how have you used breathwork to be able to let go?
There's a lot of different types of breath work that I practice. In the very beginning, it was a very consistent practice of the same breath over and over again for 6 months. That breath is a 2-part breath. It's pretty activating for me in that time in my life. I needed that. I was very activated. My nervous system was going crazy. So that breath created the capacity for me to feel the emotions I needed to feel in order to feel them and kind of meet myself and then love myself through those emotions. If I was feeling sad or if I was feeling anger, if I was feeling resentment, I would allow myself to feel it and I would breathe into them. And on the other side of that feeling was love for those parts of me, love for those emotions that hurt so deeply. And breath was just the guide and the process to actually dive into those deep emotions. So that consistent breathing and also being able to trust my breath, that when it felt really, really difficult, I can breathe myself back into a regulated state and give myself grace. So it's been a huge part of the process of kind of understanding my emotions.
Yeah, yes. And in all that process that you were describing, I think you also learned to trust yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's really
Yes.
all the stuff outside of me. I didn't need answers outside of me anymore. It was like, oh, it's all within myself. I look outside for some guidance, for some reassurance that, this stuff is real. Like breathwork has all the science behind it. There's a lot of spiritual stuff behind it. But the tangible experiences I feel through breathwork and that my clients feel when I'm guiding them is something that is uniquely theirs. It's their experience through their emotions, through their energies, through their breath. And I always hand it off to them as the autonomy is in your breath. It's in your intuition. And there's a couple of breathing patterns that can get you to it. But at the end of the day, it's your breath. We've been doing it since the day we were born. And once we put intentionality to it, it helps us understand that our breath is so much more powerful than just breathing in and out. We can do so much more and become aware of our body simply by being aware how we breathe.
Yes. And what are some simple breath practices that someone can
Yeah, awesome.
practice?
So I'll start with just kind of giving you a little background of how our breath works. And this is a super simple example, right? When you get home from work, you see your couch and you go, right? You take a big, deep breath into your belly, all the way up into the top, and you let it go with a sigh. And you can feel your body sink into like a safe, relaxed state because your body goes, you're home, you're safe. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to consciously go, I can't wait to get home and take this deep breath. It just does it, right? And okay, now imagine you're going home. You walk through your door and you see your house is a mess. There's dishes piled up, clothes on the chair that's been there for 3 or 4 days, a stack of bills on the kitchen table next to a box of pizza, and you're like, fuck. And you step in there and you just have this tight breath into your chest and you hold it. And when you have that tight breath into your chest, what do? We get tense. And then it signals our brain, fight, flight, or freeze. So we can fight and be like, oh, it's a fucking mess. And we can just start, causing all these self-judgment, and we can start getting into the sense of tension, or we can freeze and be like, meh, go watch TV, ignore it. Or we can flee. You know what? I'm just going to go to the bar and hang out.
Right.
So there's 3 things we can do, but we also had a choice to consciously do that. But what got in the way is the dirty dishes, is the mess in the apartment, the house, whatever. So there's a choice where you can make that choice to go, oh, I have a shallow breath into my chest. I'm going to go into my belly. And that brings us down. It brings our nervous system into a place of rest and relax and, rest and digest. So the breath that I'll guide us through today is a simple diaphragmatic breath. If we can put our hand over our belly and hand on our chest. So we're going to breathe into our belly, feeling our hand rise. Up into your chest, hold it. Sip breath of air. Hold it. Let it go. So you can do that and sip, blow all the air out. So we can do 3 of them. Into our belly, up into our chest, feel our collarbones rise. We're going to sip a breath of air at the top, hold it for a second, and then let it go. And we'll push all the air out, and you'll see your body shift. You'll feel your body shift. It's a physical sensation that happens in your body with this breath. So we're going to go belly breath. Hold it. Sip a breath of air. Hold it. Let it go. Breath of air. Hold it. And you might feel your body already coming into like a relaxed state. You might feel like, ooh, I feel chill, right?
Yes.
And all it takes is breath. And you can always access that. Any moment of the day, we have our breath. Sometimes it's really hard to remember that when our kids are not listening to us and we got to get to work on time. And instead of taking a deep breath, it's a lot easier to just yell at them or grab their stuff and let's go. We're coming out the door. And all we have to do is take a deep breath. And if you continue to do that, I guarantee you your kid's going to start noticing the shift. She's going to start noticing. They're going to start noticing like, oh, mom's not yelling at me. There's not this urgency going on. It's going to take some planning. So we might have to wake up a little earlier and do stuff, but our breath is always there to guide us through that moment where we feel overwhelmed or we feel like we're going to be reactive.
Yes, and I think I was telling you that even sometimes I feel activated when I'm doing therapy, and I have to take a little deep. Obviously, I don't take big deep breaths, but I take little.
Yeah,
I do deep breathing exercises to bring my heart rate back to normal, so I can think.
Yeah,
I can ground myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. And anytime you do work like this, it's also about co-regulation, right?
Yes.
So co-regulating with the kid. You ever tell a kid to calm down when you're not calm? It doesn't work.
It's not going to work.
You ever tell your partner to calm down when you're not calm? But if you can meet them and then you have capacity for whatever emotions they're having, and you can hold it without having it disrupt your system. Just hold it and have the space for it. You'll notice that person will start leaning into regulation, leaning into you to seek that co-regulation. Yes. And that's when you can literally just breathe consciously, and you can feel and see and watch that person start breathing with you. And it's such a subtle thing that I do. And it's something I do in sessions when I'm working with clients, because I know that when they're feeling activated, I have to stay calm and grounded and have space to hold whatever they're feeling, so that when they're feeling tight in their chest, I can go, and they lean into it and go, oh, I got to breathe too. And then all of a sudden they have more capacity to think and feel all the stuff that's going on in their head, all the stuff that's going on in their body. They have more capacity to breathe and actually process it. So it's kind of how we can tie in breath in any session when you're working with anyone, children, your parents, your partner, right?
Exactly. And it's such a connection, right? You build like body attunement with yourself. And so it helps in so many ways, right? If you stay grounded, you're able to have a better relationship with your partner, with your children, with your loved ones. You can improve your communication. You can express what you really want, right? Because you're taking a moment to really sit with yourself.
And I use real life examples that I've experienced, because I recognized before I understood my breath, I was doing things that were bringing this energy of urgency or this sense of control that was not very comfortable for my family, right? So I can give you an example. If I lost my wallet, which I tend to misplace my wallet often, and I needed to go, where's my wallet? This is before I had this awareness of breath, but I'll be like, where's my wallet? Where's my wallet? I need to find my wallet. And this energy of me being all like pacing around the house trying to find my wallet, I had no idea when I looked. My wife at the time, my ex-wife now, would be like all stressed out. My little daughter would be watching her dad all stressed out. And then I start thinking, oh shit, that's what my dad would do. Like when he lost his keys, it was a bad day for everybody.
Yeah. And
I'm over here doing the same thing. And the moment where I'm like, dude, my wallet, where's my wallet? That tightness in my chest, that, oh man, I'm in trouble. Something's going to happen. This is not safe. What's fucking wallet? I'll find it eventually. Take a deep breath, motherfucker. I'll be all right. And then I choose to just chill and make space to find my wallet without disrupting everyone's life around me because I made a mistake, or I'm judging myself harshly because I misplaced my wallet, right? And I use that example because it's a real life example that a lot of people can relate to. Little things can send them into dysregulation so easily, not because of the wallet, but because of the feelings behind it, the stories behind it, the traumas behind it, right? And we don't know that until we reflect. So the work I do is also very reflective, I believe everyone has the answers within them. All we have to do is reflect.
Exactly. It's like those emotions we're feeling, the way we were feeling them at 4 years old, at 5 years old, they come back just as intensely. And so how do you work with men who struggle with being vulnerable?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot of the men that I work with are at the stage where they're ready to do the work. If they're struggling to be vulnerable, I do a lot of modeling. I can share my story so openly because I know my story. I know that there's value in my story. I know the things I've been through have taught me certain skills. So I share my story, and in that it invites the men I'm working with to start to share theirs and open up, because a lot of the stuff that they might be ashamed of or embarrassed to share, it's surprisingly very common things. It's things that all men go through, feeling like they're alone, feeling like they're going to be judged because behind closed doors they're crying. Motherfucker, all these guys are crying behind closed doors. It's hard. If we
Mhm.
haven't had experience understanding how to process it, it's hard. So when I tell men this, they go like, oh shit, you see me. I go, yeah, I see you. And then it's pretty easy from there. Because I just keep it real. I am who I am, and I let them be who they are. And this is a coaching relationship I'm in with these men that is a space where we create the container for whatever comes up and have a space to process it and have some guidance through it. But at the same time, I'm a human going through my own stuff, and I share it in that process because it supports men in being able to see their own story in mine. So it's a reflective process. We're all mirrors,
Right. And what about, you were saying that sometimes you get a lot of messages from women who are reaching out on behalf of their husbands.
Yeah. Though I get those every once in a while, and they'll find my content. They're like, oh, this is really helpful for my husband. They'll send me their husband's page. Like, can you message him? And I will, if you're like, yeah, like I won't message a person, but if they message me back, I'll share some information. But if you're a woman and out there and you want to see a man go on their healing journey and they're seeing these things where they're like, maybe this content will help them, share my content. And at the same time, you can't force anybody on this path. You can't force anybody to do this healing work. You can't force someone to see something that they can't see yet. Is it their time to see? The work I do it's pretty heavy. It's trauma. It's diving into the childhood trauma, and then it's also developing tools to get through it and learn how to support yourself through that with tools that I support them through. So if a woman's reaching out saying, hey, I want you to talk to this dad or my husband, if that man is on board, then, it could work out. But if not, it's really hard. Like I think I trigger a lot of men, they'll be like, fuck that guy, I know what he's talking about, fuck feelings, like, okay, cool. It's all good, dude. Like when you're ready, I'm here,
But your message to the woman is that you can't force anyone.
You can't force anybody.
Exactly.
But if they're on the path and they want to learn, share my content. I think I speak to the men that are ready to hear.
Yeah. Okay.
Ready to listen. Yeah,
yes. Yeah. And is there anything else you want to share with us today?
No, I think, I guess lately I've been hosting Breathwork in the Park every Saturday in Walnut, California at 7:30 a.m. It's something that I do regularly on my own. And I was like, you know what? I can start inviting people in. It's open to anyone. It's free. I guide, breathwork journey session, then an integrative reflective circle. And we have space to kind of talk about what's coming up. And it's a place where we can practice our breath. We can connect and reflect, and we can build community and remind us that we're not alone in this healing journey. I think everyone's on their own path. Some people are choosing to do this work to heal, and there's so many different modalities that can support you through it. For me, breath is what really helped. Breath is what worked. And I share it with from a heart-centered place, because I truly believe breath is something that can transform someone's life. So I offer it every Saturday free in Walnut, California at 7:30 a.m. And I'll be doing it until I don't do it. I'm going to keep showing up, and people keep showing up. I'll be there. That's pretty much what I got going on. And if anyone's interested in, needs my support and wants to work with me, they can always reach out on my Instagram, reflective.af.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Alex. It was a pleasure having you, and I hope you join us again.
Yes. Thank you. It's been awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.